So I'm happy to be here with you to open the symposium, and I'm very happy to see so many of us here. We all know that young people are often the ones who are at the forefront in ensuring that democracy and human rights are where they should be. When we talk about climate change, the backsliding of democracy, or shrinking civic space, we know that our actions are somewhat of a barometer and our needs are a compass of where we should be going. We know that for decades now, youth organizations and young activists have been the ones who have been the loudest when it comes to warning about environmental degradation and human-caused climate change and crisis. We are aware of the complexity of these challenges, and we know that quick fixes and solutions are not really a response, because that just means we're exporting pollution somewhere else. So we need long-term commitment. We are there to highlight the solidarity not just with those who are currently suffering climate change, such we mentioned fires in Southern Europe, the floods in Central Europe, well, and then we can add, I don't know, melting of glaciers or disappearing of wetlands or mangroves, right? But our solidarity also lies with future generations, of those future generations of our only home, and we know that how big of a toll this can be on mental health and our well-being. So we have not created any of these situations, yet we are here to bear the consequences and to express how we should act and how others should act. And we know that despite all of this energy and commitment, many times young people's voices are not really heard, because we are either accused of not participating in political life or not doing it in the right way, right? We are not agreeable enough, or we are too ambitious, and so on. Or maybe we don't know how to navigate some bureaucratical systems, as we've seen with the Duarte Agostinho case, right, of being seen as inadmissible because they have not explored enough options at a national level. So then it is understandable that some people lack trust in institutions, and because their actions are moving way too slowly, and young people sometimes feel and are de facto excluded from decision making, or are really just dismissed. Through our joint work here at the youth department in the statutory bodies, we have really noticed that there are some rights that are guaranteed on paper when it comes to ensuring young people's participation in political and democratic life, but that sometimes it's very difficult to access these rights. So we have been working on, also through our strategy for youth 2030, to see how we can improve institutional responses to the issues affecting young people's rights, such as the rights to combat the effects of climate change and environmental degradation. So if we zoom out at Council of Europe level, we can see that there's been a new path or a new commitment by our member states, which is based in the summit that we've seen last year, that highlights very much stronger democracies, youth perspectives, and environment. It recognizes the urgency of environmental issues and the need to add additional efforts to protect the environment and impact of triple planetary crisis, and as well to make sure that in order to have stronger democracies and lasting and sustainable policies, we need more youth participation. Which brings us also to the symposium of today, right? This is, as Matthias already mentioned, and George as well, that these topics are hugely overlinked. I would like to go through some highlights of the recommendation that's already been mentioned. So that's the recommendation on young people and climate action that hopefully, fingers crossed, will be adopted today in the form that we wanted it to be. This recommendation addresses the needs of young people and young environmental defenders across Europe when advocating for climate action. So it does not only acknowledge the problems that we are facing, it is also a call for action. It urges member states to protect young environmental defenders, to foster meaningful participation, and to remove barriers to participation of young people when it comes to climate-related decision-making processes, especially focusing on socioeconomic barriers, and in addressing all forms of discrimination that young people may be facing in these efforts, including marginalized, minority, or indigenous youth. then it also calls for promotion of climate education through youth work, formal, non-formal education, having more data and information on climate change and raising awareness, as well as recognizing green skills and all of the skills that we can gain through climate action work. However, when we talk about the aspects of education that this recommendation asks for, they are not only focused on educating young people or education that young people do towards other young people. I would like to highlight, and this I promise is the last thing that I read from this recommendation, is the need to also educate those who are in decision-making places, such as legal practitioners and other relevant professionals, to educate them on the prevailing legal, peaceful, and unconventional methods of youth climate action, and to ensure that the outcomes of legal procedures are balanced, fair, and proportionate, and that they take into account the cause and justification provided by young people and young environmental offenders. So this recommendation is not just our advocacy tool, but it is really a guide for governments on how to elevate human rights of environmental defenders in practice, how to listen and understand and see how to act, and not just punish. Because we have to make sure that democracy is practiced in all of its forms, and that includes both having more people in decision-making structures, but not just as observers, but really as leaders and practitioners, and then also having young people not only as politicians, but also activists that are protesting on the street, because this is our right. And these are examples of strong participatory democracies that we want to commit to, right? Because we are there to request strong commitments from duty bearers and sustainable and lasting policies, as in fact is something that heads of state promised with the last Reykjavik Declaration. Finally, climate action is a collaborative process. Whether you're organizing protests, running organizations, or influencing policy from within, we need all of us in all of these spaces. The fight for climate justice is not one that can be fought in isolation. We have to support one another, whether we are protesting, organizing, educating, or legislating. That is one part of democracy, and we need those who are in higher places of decision-making to take this path with us. I wish everyone 3 fruitful days of exchange, learning, and collaboration, hoping that we can find support and inspiration in each other's work. And then finally, I know that some of these topics can be overwhelming, so please take care of yourself, take a moment, take care of others. And I would like to finish with expressing solidarity with young environmental defenders, and most recently those unlawfully persecuted, intimidated, and attacked young environmental protesters in Serbia. Thank you very much.